we go. All right. In 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody. We're so glad you could make it back with us this week for another episode of Mental Health Awareness. Thank you for joining us for today. It is July 17th, 2023, and this is another episode of JAWS Coffee Chat. Today we have with us Jennifer A. Whitaker and our host, C. Snaps. We want to give a special thanks and shout out to Lawrence Wingate of Wingate TV, Marcus Hart of Transform You Media, Zach Clayton of the PAC Channel, and Jay Stoyan of the Disability Channel for replaying our shows on their platforms. So be sure to like, share, and subscribe to their social media pages and ours, or our YouTube channel, or wherever it is that you found us on. All right, here you go. C. Snaps, take it away.
Welcome, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about communication and how sometimes how we give information and how we receive information from other people. There have been times, including myself, where I've had trouble communicating with other people. And let's start with listening. And so when you listen, I guess my takeaway from listening is to face the speaker, use like nonverbal cues. Make sure you're watching their nonverbal cues. If they're saying something that they're like waving their hands or doing different things like that. Try not to interrupt and just try to listen without judgment or coming up with your own conclusions before you even know where the person is headed, especially if you're in a heated conversation and the person has come at you from a negative point of view and they've said some things that were not so kind, and then you have to respond to that. So make sure instead of thinking of your own conclusions, you just let them finish. And if you have time, plan what you're going to say. So plan what you're going to say, and don't try to make your choices their decisions. Don't try to make their decisions your choices.
Yeah, Jennifer.
Now, in some of those times that we're doing the listening, remember you were saying about the aggression or during the argument, wouldn't you say that based off that, sometimes we need to recognize that the person's not angry at us, but they're venting, and we need to just listen, as opposed to being defensive to respond?
Oh, that's good. I like that. Yes. So instead of just imposing what we say, we need to just listen to what they're saying, and just not always assume the negative for that is going to come out of the conversation. Expect the positive. Expect positive.
So would you say that is also, like you said with the word assumption, asking, hard communication, ask if someone is upset, maybe ask, did you have a bad day? Because it's in the evening when they come home from work. And then if they say yes, to be like, well, I'm listening. But like you said, don't judge, but lend an ear.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, that's true too. Yes. Ask questions, try to stay focused in the conversation. And then try to put yourself in the other person's shoes. You know, a lot of times we don't always put ourselves in the other person's shoes and what they're going through and what they've experienced for the day. And that goes for both sides, both for family members and for the person who has the mental illness, because a lot of times family members don't necessarily see that, oh, this person is mentally ill and they might not be thinking correctly. whereas the mentally ill person could just be like, oh, they're attacking me, when it's really not they're attacking you. You actually did do something that offended them, and they weren't able to they didn't like how you handled the situation. I don't know.
Yeah.
So what you made me think of was a certain day when I was stressed. It was this past weekend. Now take that 2 weekends ago. My older sister was in town here in the Houston area, and I was already frustrated with something that was going on with somebody, and then she tells me, she snaps at me, be nice to Madre because sakes of her, you have your pushy life. And then I get upset because I was already upset. And like you said, she said something that was where she was upset, and we both like split directions. And then I talk it over, what we're talking about that we need to do for each other. That was my little sister in my situation. That was the listening one. And when she heard what I perceived, and she heard at the time the incident happened, the word my older sister used, she comforted me with, well, I don't think that was a good choice of words, but what your sister means is. So she explained what my sister meant, but also went to explain to me that I was right, that the word she chose to use, cushy, does not really explain my life, and neither was it a accurate or positive way to put it. It was basically an insult that I have the easy life and I don't, which was what I explained to my sister. My little sister was, how do I have a cushy life when I spend so much time at doctors? I can't support myself. But that's an example of what you're saying. We were both upset, and neither of us observed that the other one was already upset. There was the calmer one that calmed both of us.
Right. Yeah. That's pretty much, those type of situations when you need to like pay attention and kind of use your listening skills and go in with like no judgment, which is kind of hard, especially when one person is already on edge and the other person is already on edge for whatever reason. And then you're trying to come together to make that communication work. That's exactly what I was trying to get at. And so,
Right, and I think my sisters and I was an ideal situation to explain what you're saying, because my older sister and I were the two not understanding, and then my little sister, with each of us separate conversations, was the one that basically played the medium. So there's the
right.
ideal and the not so ideal we want to avoid.
So true. Good point. So those are just like some listening skills. And then like I'll go through a few more, and then we'll talk about what we can do like when we end up in situations like that. So I got 2 more, which is don't avoid comparing yourself to your experience to someone else's experience, and then don't try to help immediately in a situation if you can. So let's go back to that situation. So with your sister's situation, I know for me, what calms people down, and it weirds people out for some reason too, which is thankfulness. Just always being thankful. Rather like if you genuinely mean it, be thankful. But if you can just find something simple to be thankful about, then just be thankful for the person.
And then there's the mediator, like the example of my little sister that calmed both of us down in two separate conversations. She knew about that tactic somehow. And so I know with me, she says, well, at least you don't have to worry about the stressors that Elisa has, like being a mom and dealing with kids that are screaming the whole time and spending 24 hours a day with them. And she points out other things that then is, well, at least you don't, and then whatever that's, in my case, uncomfortable. And so she basically points out, here's some things to be thankful for, right?
Right.
Because that she said at least whatever, but that implied to me be thankful that you don't whatever.
Right.
So
Right.
that's yeah, that's where the story of my sister integrates with where you're going, even if we need a little bit of push. In this case, for my little sister, to start to see the positive of
Right.
my situation instead of focusing on the negative. It's I'm thankful for the list.
Right. And that goes for both the mentally ill person plus the family member. The family member needs to be just as thankful for something, just find anything, and just, compliment each other, because once you bring in negativity, it kind of takes root and it'll kind of like suck you dry, kind of. Yeah. And so then you're attacking each other constantly for whatever reason. And it's not that you dislike your family member or the other way around, is that it's just a situation. And I kind of look at it from a spiritual standpoint, where you've let the devil come in and just kind of take over everything and kind of destroy your relationship. And you don't want your relationships destroyed.
But there's also the ideal harmony of like within again, going back to that certain Saturday with my sisters. We were Elisa and I, my older sister and I, were kind of distance apart emotionally. But physically we were together and playing video arcade games at Dave and Buster. I don't know if y'all heard of that.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
okay, so you know what I'm talking about. There's like a kind of like Chuck E. Cheese for adults.
Right.
So we hung out together. We didn't physically separate, even though we emotionally were like, okay, other than this game, I want to talk to you. And anyways, so we were eventually kind of forced to interact. And later that evening, my little sister talked to my older sister in private. And so that was a Saturday night. We were at the arcade probably like 4 to 7 or something in the evening. And then Sunday, the next day, when my older sister was on her way back to Dallas, guess who she calls?
You.
And she apologized. And I apologized to her as well. And we ended up kind of like breaking happy tears of we got each other back.
Yeah.
So there's, in that case, based on your story, that we did not like let the tension build. We kind of had space from each other to get a break, and then came back in touch in our harmony as sisters with apologies to one another and exchanging kisses and hugs.
That is so true. That's good. I like that you all were able to resolve your differences. And I think a mediator does help. Not every situation goes like that. And not everyone gets that mediator to like come in and help them with family member problems. Especially when you go through different episodes, and then you have to turn around and talk to your family members after being through a negative episode of communicating with them and not getting along with them. So I'm glad that you and your sister was able to work it out. And so for those who can't work it out,
Well, let's not say can't, because this whole podcast and this series right now is talking about ways that they can step in and do it.
right, okay,
So they just have to have the right communication skills. But sometimes that
Right.
involves, like you were saying earlier in the show, giving people space to step away and both cool off to then come back and be ready to visit in a way that each side understands the other and clarifies what they really meant. And of course, there's apology, but still at least apologizing and forgiving one another. And then let's say you made goals of how to work through the whatever preventive measures based on how each other perceived it and why each other reacted the way they did or did.
right. And I think forgiveness is so important when you're dealing with mental illness, because either parties could be having a bad time, whether you're the family member or the mentally ill person, but either parties could just be having a bad time. And like you said, sometimes you just need to step away. You need to come back to apologize and just ask for forgiveness. And it should not always be a one-sided thing where one person is always apologizing and the other person is not. It should go both ways and it should be equal. And then if you have a hard time being able to talk or the other person won't let you talk, then write them a letter. Just take time and write a letter. Or if you feel that you're not communicating properly or not getting your words across, then instead of talking, then write. Because a lot of times we're not able to use our words and talk clearly to other people to get our point across.
But something else we can do, it's not just writing, but of course there's a modern day version, which is an email or a text. But there's also sending each other, let's say, YouTube videos that are some kind of message or song, something that says how we feel to that person. It could be if someone's having a hard time saying they're sorry to someone that they've been mad at for so long. It could be that they send a song of, like, let's say a YouTube video, like that's about how much they love somebody, or is expressing an apology or a forgiveness message in the song or the performance, if it's a public speaker or something. But those are other ways when people can't, like, they don't have the nerve to approach that somebody. Those are other ways they can deliver the message.
Yeah, that's so true. I like that. And just yeah, so I think being a good listener, just building your communication skills like eye contact and knowing what to say, when to say it, and how to say it, the right timing to say it is very important. And then just always try to stay positive. Like I said, come in with Thanksgiving, try to compliment when you can, and then just be genuine in everything that you say so that it clearly shows that you still love this person and that you're not trying just because you have an agreement doesn't mean you can't get along.
I was going to say, let's let listeners know we don't want to mistake genuine for being 100% honest, because in some cases people can think that means very, very open honesty. And if someone has a grudge, they want to, voice care, love, something positive. Well, let's say with a therapist or somebody, or say with a pastor at a church or something, they're working on the grudge and forgiveness. Because if they're feeling that grudge, that anger, some kind of negative emotions with somebody, they want to communicate the concept of love, the care. I miss you during the day when you're at work. I enjoyed the evening with you. Something of that nature, while dealing internally through the help of somebody on the outside, like the pastor or the therapist, with the internal emotions instead of actually being fully honest to say, I hate your guts. I mean, because that would only do more damage, but it'd still be
Right.
honesty. So
Right.
that there's also, in that case, knowing when to filter and what to filter.
Yeah. So definitely filter, yes. Be more responsive. Active listening is like, I know for me, active listening is very important because I tend to tune people out after a while. Like,
Huh? Why don't
but
you say something?
right.
That's your secret. Oh, wow. We found it in EJ too.
Exactly. And so like just like, but I'm not the only person who does this. Like there's a lot of even normal people who, well, not normal, we're all normal. We're just different in some cases. But there are just people who tune people out and they have to like practice their active listening skills. And so like
That is a very key point that not just our listeners hear this, but that they share this link or podcast with somebody else who needs to hear that, because it's not just like we were saying, those are mentally ill. It's not just people that have permission. As texting has got to be a norm, and cell phones got to be a norm. Now you will even find teenagers sitting in the same room communicating through texting and not actually being open and honest. And so communication is leaving the workforce
oh,
as more generations approach. So
It's
that
not even
goes to
just
your point.
teenagers, it's adults. I've known adults to be in different rooms of the house and talking to each other through Facebook to each
Right.
other, airing it through
Because
Facebook. I'm like,
those,
what?
some of those are what were teenagers when this trend started that are now, like my little sister who's in her like 20s. But still, that it started in certain teenagers and it's been planted in other teenagers of the following generations. But since we're planting it in so many generations, it's becoming a norm because those certain people are dominating to be a bigger portion of the population as more time goes by. So all the point to say that is a big issue in our modern day society, especially the trend of technology. Because it even picked up more with the pandemic when we went to video communication, and then the person that's on the screen, say 30 minutes a day with their best friend, was not the person you saw the other 24 hours or 23 hours of the day, right? I mean, it kind of became like another social media.
wow.
So that's to emphasize that it's more than just a mentally ill, that particular concept applies to. That's how important it is.
Yes, it's a very important. You don't want to like tune people out. And to do that, you can reassure them that you're listening and actually you understand what they're saying and not just being a passive listener to where it's just going in and out and just flowing through.
Part of the way to do that is like what you've seen me do, or you've done for me when one of us is upset, we acknowledge that you said something. We acknowledge each other's feelings. Like when you have your uncomfortable situation, I'll be like,
Mhm.
so what else is bothering you? What else is on your mind? You know, 'cause that those responses that ask for more information to be shared also says, I'm listening because I just received what you heard and what you said and I heard it. So there's other ways. There's saying, uh, like when someone's on the receiving end, they can also say things like, I'm listening. And other times you'll see like, look what you're doing with your head. So you're listening, 'cause you're bobbing your head yes to what I'm saying. That acknowledges you're listening, even though you're not actually speaking words.
Yeah.
So that's part of the communication you're talking about that could be verbal and nonverbal, stating that the one on the receiving end is listening to hear the speaker.
Right. So true. So nodding your head, just everything Jennifer said is absolutely right when you're trying to communicate and listen. What else? I mean, I enjoy like I enjoy this topic of communication because I think it's vitally important because so many people call me and when it boils down to the situation, it's just a communication problem between both parties. But like I said, both parties have to be there ready to receive and ready to kind of give their input, show their encouragement, and be willing to accept that loved one.
I was going to say, I think it's part of what you're talking about starts with the acknowledgement, like the idea of someone venting. You have to acknowledge that you, as whoever that are receiving this upset message, could just be someone that was chosen for the loved one to vent on. And to pick when they're just venting, asking about their day or whatever that's bothering them, their situation, or even to ask, hey, what's bothering you? Why are you so upset? And if you're going to start talking about something at work, obviously you as the wife, husband, child, whatever, are not the problem, but they need a listener. And I think a
Right.
lot of people jump to conclusion quick enough to think if they're yelling at me, I'm the problem. Like the issue of assumptions instead of communicating to find out what is really under their skin.
That's so true. Yeah. Okay. So I want to go back to last week's topic that we kind of wrapped up towards the end, which was love and respecting. I know a lot of people are like, I need people to respect me. I need them to show me love. And I need to feel like I matter in this world and I have purpose. So with that being said, I will say that I know I started off the other week saying that you have to respect yourself first. You have to love yourself first. If you don't love and respect yourself first, then it'll be hard for you to show people how to love and respect you. And that I want to push that into the whole self-care thing and getting to know yourself. And a lot of times when you get to know yourself, that is going to be sometimes you have to ask yourself a lot of questions deep within so that you can find out who you really are and what you want to overcome and be in life. So as far as purpose goes, it's like you got to ask yourself, like, where do I want to go? What do I want to do? But you can't be afraid. If you're always afraid, or if people are putting fear in you, then that takes away from you fulfilling the purpose.
I'd like to emphasize that self-care is not just what a lot of people think about, which is meditation, getting your nails done, and other things that at least that's one to think about. That's basically pampering ourselves, right? It's a mix of pampering, but of also putting our health as a priority, not over God, but over other things, especially when we talk about simplifying life, we need to simplify it enough that we have time to take care of ourselves. That includes eating healthy, which is a modern day problem getting bigger and bigger in this country as we get more and more fast food restaurants and stuff popping up on every corner. So eating healthy is one way to self-care or to pamper yourself. And that's in a way that would drive you towards a healthier life, which I know very well, and you do too, Micah, that when we don't eat healthy, we have bad days, don't we? So,
So true. Yes.
I mean, so even just a simple act of eating healthy, making healthy choices on our food, those already give us better days. But people who have never tried eating healthy might think, oh, it won't be a good day because I didn't have my pie or whatever, some kind of unhealthy food, but it starts with that. But then self-care goes further into getting the medical attention we need, like seeing our doctors, or the exercise our body needs to build up our cardio system so it'll be able to resist and reduce the chances of lung cancer or even a cold or other things that have to do with that, like the heart attacks. So many things we can avoid. And I think on the topic of mental health, exercise is a bigger factor into being mentally stable. I have realized over the almost last year, did you know I've had my gym membership, than anything else. I mean, think about when you've seen me or talked to me days that I had surgery, so I couldn't go to the gym, or I couldn't even get out of bed, or other times. And weren't
Right.
those my lowest moods, even though I was still on the same medication?
So true. Yeah. But you came back through exercise.
Right. But that was upon the doctor releasing me from whatever restrictions they had through my healing process. But those times I had that surgery and had those restrictions was where I was able to compare my data to say, here's when I'm on these certain medicines and I'm active. This is where my health is, where my mind is, my mood. And then down here is where I am on the same medication, but not active, to actually see for myself true evidence that the with and without the physical activity actually made a big difference. It wasn't just a gimmick.
That's true. Jennifer hit on two important things, which is exercise and eat good. All the self-care is important, but those are the two majority that like push you forward to recovery. And I'm a living witness of that. I guess I went from not walking hardly at all to now I can walk a mile, not running yet, but walk a mile.
Because
Still
walking
working
is
on that
better for
run.
you. Walking is actually better for you than the running. I would push
Ah.
to get up to 2 or 3 miles walking before I would start even thinking about running.
Well, I could say that's actually scientifically proven true according to a health journal I read. If you're talking about brisk walk, where you walk, assertive, aggressive, as fast as you can, but still it's a walk and not a run or a jog.
Yeah,
There's
it's
actually
better
health
on your
that's proven
joints
that.
and your back, and and you still get the endorphins, you still get the cardio.
Yeah, you still get the health benefits. There's even like fat burning and other things like that that we associate with walking.
Mhm.
But also, it's a step before the jog or run for those that just simply walking is a challenge. That's a good way for a workout. Even if someone still wants the goal of, say, running a marathon, that would be a starting point after regular walk.
Yeah. Like I said, I would work towards walking a 5K, which is a little bit over 3 miles, before you even considered running.
Okay, yeah. So,
Get it up to a 15 or 20-minute mile.
right. Okay, so
You're
I'm gonna have
pushing yourself, because that's a
to,
pretty quick pace.
yeah.
When I was doing 5Ks a day, I was pretty much kind of speed walking, but I was getting into the 15 and 16-minute mile average.
Okay,
You
yeah.
beat me. When I walk a mile on the treadmill, I'm going 2.2 miles per hour. And that takes me about 25 minutes per mile.
Mhm.
You make me look slow.
It's
Yeah.
harder walking on a treadmill than it is actually walking out on on a path or a concrete or asphalt. I can walk faster.
I just debate that because of the Texas heat. Have you realized
But
this
yeah,
year we've been almost every single day we've been in the 3 digits,
yeah,
and
that's
like that's just our temperature. That's not our feel like
mm.
where we're in like 117, 120, stuff like that.
Oh
So
yeah, definitely.
I'm
I
not
mean,
doing it
even
outside.
inside tracks, walking an inside track, physically moving your body rather than having the treadmill move under you, and you're just moving your legs. I'm living proof that it's healthier. It took me 12 months to lose 30 pounds doing treadmill, elliptical, stationary bike, those type things in a gym. I started walking my neighborhood during the pandemic, and I lost another 30 pounds in 4 months, because I was physically walking, and I worked up to the 5K. You're muted.
So back on the topic of mental health, how did that impact what you deal with, EJ?
It was an amazing difference. The Just the endorphins that walking gave me was one thing. The almost instant gratification of that, the losing of the weight, improved my self-image, made it easier to walk that because I wasn't carrying 60 more pounds around. That's a whole rucksack.
It really is. Most people don't realize how hard it is to work out when you have a weight problem, which is when you're in most dire need. It's also when it's the hardest because, like you're saying, you have like a sandbag or something on you.
Yeah.
About how much, but still you're carrying more weight. So you're more out of shape and weaker or whatever degree of more out of shape, able to carry less, but you're at the same time having to carry more.
Yeah.
Because of having a higher weight instead of lower weight.
And beyond that, it was interesting how addicted I got to it. It would be, in the spring or summer, it'd be raining, and I'd be like, I want to go walk. This is crazy. I want to go walk. I need to go walk. And the weather was horrible,
That sounds familiar.
Yeah. And then after that, after succeeding at the weight loss goals, the mental aspect of how can I apply this to other things in my life? I succeeded hugely in losing weight where I had never been able to before. How can I apply the way I felt about needing to walk every day and that consistency and that push? How do I apply that to my business, my family, those things? So there were a lot of mental bonuses just to physically walking, getting out there, getting one step out the door. I remember back in the late 90s, I was almost agoraphobic. I had trouble leaving my apartment to go anywhere by myself. If I was with other people, I was okay, but to go somewhere and do something on my own by myself, it took every ounce of strength I had.
Yeah, that's so
And
true.
and now I'm granted I'm in a much better situation socially. Um, you know, I'm married, I have a child, I have a whole different world than it was back then. But
Just so just so listeners can understand, so this almost agoraphobia thing probably right, or is it agoraphobia?
agoraphobia.
So this almost agoraphobia, you're basically telling listeners here that you were basically being sucked in by the agoraphobia that you fought and overcame through exercise. Is that right?
Yep. Yep. I started off initially, I would make sure I had one thing planned for the weekend. I was fine going to work, leaving the house, going to work, but going somewhere on my own, just by myself for no real reason, I couldn't do it. I would sit there and go, I really want to go do something, but I could not make myself leave the apartment. And so I initially planned it where if I would, during the work week, I would plan something for the weekend with somebody. And then a few years later, I was still struggling with it, but differently. And I made myself go to this lake that had a walking path. Nobody would really see me. It's in the woods. It was just a path. I didn't have to worry about crowds. I made myself go. And the first 3 times I made it to the parking lot and couldn't get out of the car.
On the topic that Mayaka was speaking about, which is communication, did you communicate with these friends or family members or whoever that you went on the walks with the battle that you were fighting with agoraphobia and like asking them to help motivate you or encourage you or anything?
No, no, I couldn't do that. I couldn't commit to that because then that would pull me out. It was one of those things I had to do this on my own. I didn't feel comfortable enough telling somebody that I was afraid to leave my apartment. I was pretty young at the time. I was like in my late mid-20s, early to mid-20s. And college had always provided, my school had always provided my friends because you were in class with them, they were your peers. When I went to the workforce, I was working with older people. Nobody in their 20s or 30s. They were in the 40s, 50s, 60s. And so I didn't have any real friends.
I think that's a lot more common than we realize because I got most of my friends through like roommates and other interactions on college campuses where I did my different programs. And then, like you said, we go in the workforce and it's people that are older than us because they're people who are at least in their 30s and been in the whatever trade for at least, 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And then until we are that person, we don't realize the importance of developing our own social circle, which goes to the communication thing. Sometimes it's communicating with yourself directly of what is missing. And it's not always communicating with the world around us. Because sometimes we feel lonely or needy people have to call. Those are when we need to take, and I find this resource and get involved in social activities or sports activities or churches or some kind of activity that is a group that has some kind of shared interest with us, or a book club or something.
I almost joined the Coast Guard because I needed a group to hang with. I needed that new group after college. And I have water phobias. So that would not have been a good thing, but I was needing something. I ended up joining a theater, a community theater, and working through that. But I almost joined the Coast Guard just because they were so convincing.
But you
And
were
I needed
identifying that you needed a group.
I
even if
needed
it
a
was
group.
hysterical, that you almost went for your fear as far as what kind of group, that you still did the right thing of identifying you needed to be a part of some kind of group.
Yep.
And seeking it. And even though your first toss wasn't in the goal, you took another toss and ended up with the right goal that fit your taste with the theater. Because then again, this isn't necessarily a bunch of people that do acting. I mean, it's not a bunch of people that do talk support. It can be activity, like the shared interest with theater, being the whoever you want to be on the stage, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes that's a healthy way to escape your reality, or so is like reading books and stuff.
Right.
You escape whatever's your real problem for the periodic trip to, I don't know, Ireland, wherever, depending on where your book takes place.
Right.
Settings. So back to you, C Snaps.
Oh, I was enjoying it. So, no, I get everything that EJ was going through. I was first off, putting on weight is a whole nother thing, because when I went into the hospital, I had never weighed over 80 pounds, and I came out weighing more than 80 pounds.
Oh my goodness.
I won't say how much because it was quite a lot. But that was like a total game changer for me. So I haven't ever went back to 80 pounds, but
That was me with 120. I used to be size 00 in pants growing up, and that was around 120, my weight, all muscular and built, no fat in my body. And even as an adult, I never been back to that.
Yeah. They thought I was anorexic in high school because I was 5'9" and 125.
See, and that was similar to my story, because I'm 5'6" and at the time was 120.
Yep. So you can imagine being 3 inches even taller than that. Plus, I was borderline narcoleptic. So the stress of junior, senior year going to college, apparently, it's what it turned out to be, not narcolepsy, but I'd be falling asleep in class. And so between that and my weight, they actually pulled me aside and asked, are you eating? You know, what is your, they started talking to me about anorexia, and I'm like, I snarf down everything. I just can't keep the weight on. Because I was dancing 8 to 12 hours a week, and I was in marching band, and I had all these activities going. But yeah, I was 5'9" and 125 with low blood pressure.
Yeah, and that
right.
that same stuff was true of me, because I started playing sports when I was 2 years old, and first I played t-ball. Then I got into competitive swimming that we've talked about. And when I got into competitive swimming, I also got into canoeing and paddle boating and all these other outdoor stuff. And then after so long in those, I got into soccer. So I was at different times playing 4 or 5 sports at the same time on 4 or 5 different teams, in addition to going to school. And that's where I eventually was the gold medal winner of the Junior Olympics for the 1996 game. So I competed among the children and was the mile run gold medal winner. But that was me at age 11. That's how involved I was. And then there's going to what you said about how involved we were in so many activities. And then, like in my case, it was college hit me hard, because now suddenly I can't even play one sport, because tennis was the one I wanted to carry on to college. But that with tennis, they didn't think I was good enough. And I more than likely was with track. I refused to do that. I was going to do tennis or nothing. It's nothing. And then I get into the whole working, because my dad wanted me to, learn what it means to earn your money and to start to get at least a resume of some kind of minimum wage work versus no work history. And so then my first job was at McDonald's, and I was eating all these fries and chickens and everything else that, I did. I put up that weight on, and those 8 years in college to get my master's degree, sure enough, it put 8 years worth of fat on me too. I was up to 290. I went up from 120 to 290 in those 8 years.
Wow.
So even with all the walking I've done across campus, there's plenty of sitting and plenty of eating.
Yes.
So maybe like your body changes through the years. I just
Yeah.
experienced mines in a hospital. So yeah,
Yeah.
maybe that's what it was.
But yeah, when you're young, your life is on the go and you're moving and
Yeah,
you've got all this stuff, and then all of a sudden you're in a desk job
right. Yes, so
and you
true.
get home and you're tired and it's dark, and so you don't go out and do stuff. So you sit more at home and watch TV and eat. So yeah,
Well, but
very
I
normal
think
mental change
but
when you.
I think some of that has to do with stuff like in my case where uh, I ended up not playing any sports just because I didn't want the one that I was the best at, right? So instead of them saying, well, we know you want to be active and you're an athlete in school, so we're not going to do tennis, but we'll do whatever. Like the school didn't offer me that there's another sport that they would recruit me to be a varsity player on. It was a college player. They just said, well, this is the one you want, and we're not doing it, so it's no deal, you know? So maybe that's something that we need to work on with colleges, like talking about the whole education system that I do deal with a lot is, well, where would you place them so they can stay active, even if it's a different sport than where they actually want it, at least they still have activity, which would go to this keeping them active instead of the suddenly from never even sitting. Because like you and I with all these five or how many sports we're playing, to suddenly just sitting all the time. I'm sure there's some of that
Whereas,
shocks our system too.
yeah, and whereas our new generation, like my kids, our kids' age, they're already sitting rather than being out doing like we were, because they have the TV, they have the computer, they have the games, they have the handhelds. They're already sedentary and paying the price that we didn't pay until we were older. So what's going to happen to them when they get older? It's a scary thought.
But all
Yeah.
that goes to what I was talking about, going back to my Yaku's topic with the mental health and self-care, is that we're not necessarily teaching the children, whether it's like me, a client, or with you, your daughter, we're not teaching the children to be active. And so that's partially us as the adults that are setting the role models that are the responsible ones because they don't know beyond what they're taught. And sometimes I think as parents having an easy escape, which is I need to go work my job and I don't want you bothering me. So I know
Go
the
watch
video
TV.
games will hold your TV. The video games or TV will hold your attention if I just use YouTube or whatever and make you binge watch your favorite show, put you on my hair. So sometimes I think that's parents taking an easy route out to work to focus on the job or something, whatever task at hand. And it's kind of a negligence of the kid's health versus going to your point with the modern day electronics. Buy them a playground or something in your backyard, a pool, I don't know, something that physical activity in place of the video game. And I'm not talking about just the game, but the whole like controls and everything else that makes them want the game. Because if they don't have the controls, they're not as likely to want the game, which means more likely to say, well, what can I do? Oh, read a book. Okay, that's at least good for the intellect and learn. Or go see those friends. And that'll be good for the social and the communication about and so forth.
All right. Well, I think we are over time. Actually, we got going on that, didn't we?
Right.
Any last words?
I guess we're the Three Stooges. We work better when it's all of us.
Right.
So for announcements, I would like to let all of our listeners know that Jen's Books and More will soon be carrying Mary and Martha books, which for those of you who don't know what they are Christian faith-based and Bible study-based workbooks or just literature books related to the Bible. And so we will sometime soon be adding that to our website in about the next 2 to 3 weeks. And there will be additional books that you can find at jensbooksandmore.com, JENS books, AND, more.com. And you can also hear when it's actually released by following us on your favorite social media or podcast app to hear us announce once it's actually made live. We are still working on the newest book to be released, and in the next, give or take 2 months, we'll have all 5 of our books that are already published on more websites and more bookstores and so forth. So it'd be easier for you to find books by Jennifer A. Whitaker.
Excellent. You can always check out her website, jensbooksandmore.com. C-Snaps, any final words?
No, it was a joy. I will see you all next week.
All right. Well, once again, special thanks to Lawrence Wingate of Wingate TV, Marcus Hart of Transform U Media, Zach Clayton of the PAC Channel, and Jay Stoyan of the Disability Channel for replaying our episodes on their platforms. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the social media pages and wherever you find Jaws Coffee Chat with Jennifer A. Whitaker. Until next time, which will be next Monday, July 24th. Oh my goodness, we're almost at the end of July. Everybody, take care of yourselves, do some of that self-care, and have a productive and enjoyable week. Take care, everybody.